Matt Weiner. This was not pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Not
ugly basketball.
Not a thing of beauty.
Ugly basketball.
Combined shooting under 35% for the two teams. The Pacers hit just 2 buckets in the third quarter when they were 2 of 19. And ultimately, that was the difference in this game after a slow start by Boston.
Yeah, that was 2 buckets more than Brendan and I did tonight. But no, it really was. I mean, a game that was ugly. And I thought Indiana in the first half actually, did a decent job. They were in the game and had a lead for a good portion of that. But that third quarter defensively was probably a little bit of great defense and probably a little bit of bad offense as well. But tip your hat to the Celtics for tightening the screws there and coming out defensively and really getting the win on that side of the ball here tonight.
Yeah, sometimes you got to win ugly. And that's exactly what the Celtics did. They didn't come out and they didn't look very good in the first quarter. Indiana looked like they had more juice, they had more pop, looked like they were a little bit more excited to be in the playoffs. Yeah. And it showed in the halftime score. And then we got to the second half. Boston realized they were in a dogfight. They raised their energy level on the defensive end. Kyrie picked it up a little bit in the third quarter, and they did just enough offensively to win this game. Indiana, you have to be encouraged by your defense, but offensively, Nate McMillan's going to have to figure out, what do I do to find a way to get these guys to score? Who do I put in a better position? Because tonight nobody had it. Only one starter in double figures for the Indiana Pacers.
That was Bojan Bogdanovic, who's already become public enemy number 1 in Boston, apparently. He was just 4 of 11 for 12 points. He has been kind of the closest thing they have to a go-to guy offensively since the Oladipo injury, and there was no going to him in this game.
And that's going to be tough sledding. You look at the rest of the top-tier teams in the Eastern Conference, and when it's time to get a bucket, Milwaukee's going to go to Giannis. Toronto's going to go to Kawhi. Boston's going to go to Kyrie. And we're talking about Bogdanovic, that's not, it's no disrespect to him, but
sure,
he's just not in that class. And when you catch yourself in the playoffs where the game does slow down, as we saw today, you need somebody that can get his own shot. You need old school Grant Hill. That's what they needed, and they didn't have it tonight.
They didn't have it. I mean, Bogdanovic, let's give him credit, since the injuries, played very well, averaged 20 points, 50% shootings, become their go-to guy. But he's not a guy that can go get his own shot.
Exactly.
To that point. And that's a problem, particularly in the playoffs, and particularly against a defensive-minded team that has great length and great perimeter defenders like Boston. And so you're right. Defensively, you're Nate McMillan. 84 points you give up to Boston at home, you can live with that.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to somehow, some way manufacture some points, some baskets on the offensive end, and I just don't know where and how that's going to happen.
This was the game. This was the game to me for the Pacers. Boston came out a little bit flat. Pacers had a good game plan. This was the game to steal.
Double-digit lead in the first half.
When you're on the road, you're looking for a game to steal. This was the game. And offensively, the Pacers just didn't have anything in the tank tonight, and they let it slip away. But this was a very winnable game for the Indiana Pacers. I thought they let a great opportunity slip away.
For Boston, it's been such a roller coaster season.
For the Indiana Pacers, I thought they let a great opportunity slip away.
For Boston, it's been such a roller coaster season, and we've been, scrutinizing from the get-go how the chemistry works, what doesn't work, what rotation is going to play during the postseason. Because of the Marcus Smart injury, Jaylen Brown gets the start. Wasn't a big factor offensively. He only had 2 points in this game. What did you make of the playoff version of the Celtics, the one that back last summer a lot of folks thought would come out of the Eastern Conference and reach the finals?
Well, this playoff version was very similar to the regular season version. They got the win, but it wasn't a spectacular win. It wasn't sort of, okay, we're in the postseason now. We're going to turn that page from the regular season to the playoffs,
right? And
we're going to come out and send a message. You were thinking or hoping that this team, particularly if you're a Celtics fan, that they would, send a statement here that, okay, this is the playoff version. This is like last year. We're ready to go. And to me, it's more kind of the same. Just sort of inconsistent, unsure. You get the win, but not something you feel great about against a team that is undermanned right now and doesn't have all their weapons. So, maybe we'll get to that version. Maybe we'll get to that point. But the most important thing was, obviously getting that win. And we saw yesterday how some of these teams with home court advantage, losing that first game. So, they got the win. Room for improvement for the Celtics. They're going to have to get better and tighten some things up. Obviously, score more points efficiently, be a little bit better and more efficient on the offensive end. But defensively, not a bad job being able to lock a team down like that, and just have to continue to have that be their identity, particularly here in the playoffs.
I thought there were some good signs from them defensively that maybe they coalesced a little bit during this game. They win despite their worst shooting game of the entire season. Boston did. And I'm curious, against Indiana, which gave up the fewest points per game in the NBA this season, is it easier or more difficult to sort of lock into a playoff type intensity if you're Boston playing a team that grinds the way they do? I mean, nothing is going to come easy, obviously.
Yeah, it's always going to, when the playoffs come, it's easy to just lock into a playoff mindset anyway, just because things are different as far as your game, your approach, your practices, scouting reports, everything is really, really team specific, and you get used to figuring out, hey, this is what we're going to take away on a game-to-game basis, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing with some slight wrinkles for 4 games to make this team play to their weakness. Right now, the Pacers' weakness is their scoring. And so we were talking about what version of the Boston Celtics were we going to get. We've gotten the Celtics, like you said, that we've gotten all year long. The most consistent thing about the Boston Celtics is they've been inconsistent.
Yeah.
And playoff activation mode just didn't really kick in. It kind of kicked in the same way LeBron's playoff activation mode kicked in earlier this season. It just never really turned over, like an old Chevy in the wintertime. It just never really turned over. So, you know those old Chevys, they just, in the cold, they just don't turn over sometimes. So it was one of those situations like that where the Celtics really didn't just say, hey, man, we're going to come out here and just shock the world and show them what our talent level is all about. That's not what happened. They came out a little bit sluggish.
Yeah.
If they had been playing against a team that could score some points, they probably would have lost this game. They need to be thankful. They need to say, okay, this is what we did good defensively, but offensively and from a cohesion standpoint, they need to figure out how they can score more points. And for them, it's about not just this series, because they have bigger aspirations than this series. They have to figure out how can we be better moving forward, getting towards our goal of possibly playing for an NBA championship.
So what I take from that is, A, we learned nothing about the Celtics, and B,
sure,
you're unlikely to get a Chevy endorsement anytime soon.
Yeah, Chevy's probably not going to call me. No, but not the news. I mean, you know the old Chevys.
But you don't
like
really impress me as a Chevy kind of guy.
Yeah, I could probably pull it off, but it's like what those old Chevys in the wintertime. You got to turn that key back in the day, man. That's old school. Man. That's old school.
Well, what did you think of Kyrie Irving? His first playoff game since Game 5 of the 2017 NBA Finals.
I think that he was trying to figure it out. And he's been trying to do it all year long. He's trying to figure out, how do I mesh my talents and old school get a bucket whenever I want to Kyrie with this team, and figuring out when do I get the most out of my teammates, when do I let other guys score, when do I pass the ball. And in the first half, as a guy that played with Kyrie, he was a little bit passive on purpose. He came out there letting other guys do their thing. In the second half, when guys were struggling, you saw in the third quarter, he came out with a little bit more of a sense of urgency. So Kyrie's trying to put all this together. This is his first time with his own team in the playoffs, and he's trying to figure out that leadership role.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. I mean, what does Kyrie need to do for this team? And like you said, that's sort of been, maybe him in terms of problem solving all season. When he was in Cleveland, it was, it was just, let me get the ball and score. Yeah. That was his role. That was what was asked of him. LeBron could sort of, so facilitate, keep everybody happy, make sure everybody eats. But it's here, it's like he's just, and it's been that way all season. It's a bit disjointed. You used that word earlier, and just in terms of the pieces and then sort of the approach. And so we know what he's capable of. We know what he can do. He's trying to get guys involved, but we're accustomed to Kyrie sort of coming down every time, looking to score, and that's not what we're seeing from Kyrie. We saw that last year. I think he played more like that last year in the regular season before he got hurt, but so much has changed since then. And the good thing is that Indiana's an opponent where I think they can win this series pretty easily. Mm-hmm. They can get their rhythm, hopefully, get their timing, figure things out. Try to, win as quickly as possible, and then, be prepared for that next round. But Kyrie's going to have to be elite. Today he was good.
Right.
But he needs to be elite Kyrie Irving for this team to have a chance to win it all.
MVP for the Celtics today may have been Marcus Morris, who had 20 off the bench and was plus 15 in just under 30 minutes worth of work.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Marcus Morris, look, he's been one of the few consistents all season. Even the start of the year where there was a lot of uncertainty in the lineups and he was coming off the bench, he was shooting the ball well, he was great in the low post, and, you know, he started at one point, he's off the bench again tonight, but a guy that just can, instant offense, fits in, can do a number of different things right there, and that's the kind of role you want to have, what kind of performance you want to have from your bench. Someone off the bench who can come in and get hot. And 20 points for him in 29 minutes is pretty efficient and pretty